And this session will elaborate on the aim of AI in the education industry to overcome all challenges and provide better services to learners. We are joined here by Shri Sanjeev K. Bashni, Head of International Operations, DST Government of India. I'm going to request our speakers to please join us on stage. Mr. Ajay Bansal, Partner and Client Service Leader, Global Business Services at IBM, will also be talking to us. Professor Rajendra Prasad Das, Co-Vice Chancellor at IGNOU, is also on the panel, will be in fact moderating the session. Mr. V. Shekhar Awasthi, Chief Data Scientist and Principal Consultant, Facts and Data. Dr. Indrajit Bhattacharya, Director, National Accreditation Board for Education and Training, Quality Council of India, and Mr. Mukesh Jain, CCIO and VP Insights and Data at Capgemini. Also, Dr. Chintan Vaishnav couldn't join us, unfortunately, because of the last-minute professional engagement. We'd like to welcome one of our panelists here, and without any further ado, handing it over to Professor Rajendra Prasad Das, who is the
I'll be doing some interviews maybe after a break. After this,
I'll be there tomorrow as well.
Okay, I'll come tomorrow. Yeah, I'll give you card. I'll share you today's morning coverage. I'll just do. Yeah, good. I don't have my card. I'll share you.
Sure.
Thank you very much, ICRA, for giving us this opportunity. At the outset, I must welcome all the panel members to have discussion on the theme which has been chosen for us. The earlier speaker who has addressed us about the Education 4.0, Professor Murali, has opened the session very well and has given a very good idea about the education and artificial intelligence. Before my panel members speak, I must say a few words about the education industry and the role of artificial intelligence in the last 2 decades. He was categorizing different stages of artificial intelligence before 2004, 2003, 2004 to 14 and 21. What he says that it is the era of artificial intelligence. I have been in this industry for the last 4 decades in different positions as a student, as a research scholar, as a professor, as a vice chancellor, and currently pro-vice chancellor of the world's largest university, Indira Gandhi National Open University. I have seen artificial intelligence at different stages, in different forms, in different positions. I understand that whenever I compare today, 10 years back, 20 years back, the things have changed radically. I believe that as has been a lot of discussion has been made since morning about artificial intelligence. As an academic, I understand that we are grateful to artificial intelligence for giving us accuracy, efficiency, effectiveness, and economy in our system, in our this smokeless industry, seamless industry, where accuracy was a necessity, efficiency was a necessity, economy was also a necessity, which was long ignored. Rather, it was very difficult to achieve because of the volume was increasing day by day. For example, if we look at JEE admission, if we look at admission in medical education, admission in different technical education, even admission in central universities or state universities, there was a rumor, gossip was going on. There is a lot of manipulation, a lot of therapy was going on. Even not only in the national system but in the state universities, we have faced this criticism that manipulation is going on in examination, in evaluation, in the admission, and in everything. But today, because of the artificial intelligence, the things are controlled. Even what to talk about admission to entry to exit of a student, even though it is better controlled by the attendance of not only of the teachers, employees, by the students. So we are grateful to artificial intelligence for helping us as a student, as a teacher, as an administrator, as the ultimate authority of running the education system. So since I have a very experienced panelist, I request all of them should give their ideas, their views about the role of artificial intelligence in this industry. And then we can have a discussion depending upon the issues which are raised in the process of discussion. Thank you very much. I will start from that side.
Sure. Hello, my name is Mukesh Jain. I'm a Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at Capgemini, 36 years in the industry. I had the honor to work for Microsoft in US. I was there for 13 years, and some of you might be using Office 365. My interaction with AI was when I learned that Bill Gates used to get 15 to 16,000 junk emails. And I had the honor to write the first algorithm 22 years back on artificial intelligence. At that time, there was no R, no Python, no data science, no IGNU, I don't know. But a lot of challenges were there. The one thing I learned over there, the artificial intelligence is that what we do humanly, right? If you can train the computers to see how that pattern is, it can learn from it, and then it can do it for you in a better way. 94% accuracy was happened, and we get 94% junk was caught successfully. And after that, multiple things I did. 10 years back, I moved back to India, worked for Geo and all those. Today, as my role as a Chief Technology Innovation Officer, artificial intelligence at everything, be it a supply chain, be it a bank, be it an energy company, considering the carbon footprint part of it, what things lead to what? Sometimes we always think, okay, let's do this part. We all know blockchain, how much carbon footprint it causes. Okay, everything we do, in fact, every activity or inactivity we do, that generates data. So I know all of you are active here, but you are inactive on WhatsApp right now. So people try to reach you with inactivity. All this data, when harnessed very well, generates good artificial intelligence. Last 10 years, I've been teaching at multiple universities. I'm an advisor and I'm an adjunct faculty professor at IIT, IIM, multiple places I teach. But one thing, the same thing, how you can bring artificial intelligence to life. In the education sector specifically, I had the honor to do some of those in some of the universities where I'm an advisor, and we were able to find out why certain students are getting less marks. Of course, you can answer any reason for that. But is there a problem with the faculty also? So some of the patterns, some of the exams, we were able to, exam question paper answers, we were able to analyze and come up with a pattern that, hey, by the way, this faculty need to be trained on these particular topics. One of the things which I'm very passionate about, each person has a different style of working. For example, I work better when I'm in pressure. I work better when I get logic. That's why I was scoring very poorly in history and biology. But then other person may be different. Can we have the same system for everybody? Probably not. So the customization of those, still I think a long way to go. And to say some of the research I'm doing with some of the university advisors, they're able to get there to this part. I think in all, artificial intelligence is here to stay, and the more we use it, there are two segments of artificial intelligence. One is, I call it fashionist. Fashionist wherein we do it because, hey, cool, artificial intelligence is cool, facial recognition is all cool. But when you use it for real implementation, that's where the real value comes. So that will be my permission.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sanjeev Vashni from Department of Science and Technology, and we are one of these government agencies which is responsible to promote the culture of artificial intelligence research and also its application in various parts. Now, as my co-panelist has already said that this is one of the disruptive technology which has already made some very, very categorical changes to the way we live. And today, we have become more and more machine dependent. So there was a time when grandmaster or chess would beat the blue supercomputer. Today, with the kind of data today's computer have got, I doubt if our grandmaster could come close. So human mind has its limitations in processing informations or data banks, and we have a lot of examples of machine learning, deep learning in those subjects. But time has come when we need to make good use of the data which is available across. And one of the challenges is that data is not uniform in structure. If you go from one university to another university, the kind of data set they maintain are different. And that is a challenge. When we are talking about within a confined zone, for example, in a system, like let us say, we heard Dr. Kodali about VIT Bhopal, we heard Dr. Prasad about IGNOU. Within a system, it is easy. And as my co-panelist said, it is possible to find out the challenges even in individuals. Why I am not learning a particular subject. And this is where we are talking about personalized treatment. So you might have heard about personalized medicines, that this medicine suits this fellow, the same medicine doesn't suit other fellow. Same way, tomorrow's education is going to be. Because machine will predict how the class is doing, how individuals in class are doing, how faculty is doing, and that is how we see that we would know our difficult areas, even our gap areas, and machine would prompt us to learn those things. Similarly, we see that there would be a role, there would be a change in the role of a teacher. Right now, we are expecting a teacher to profess, to teach, maybe to take to the experimental class and show by demonstration. But tomorrow, his role would be to guide from where you can get that information. The students would already be in a mode. We are in education 4.0 regime. And here, the student is the key, learner is the key. And job of teacher would be only facilitation. That is how I feel. And then there would be more time with teacher. In fact, because several things like today, the assessment is done by teachers. Tomorrow, she would be doing it. So teacher can make use of that available time in something creating more demanding and more thought-provoking. So this is how I see the role, how teaching will go in time to come. Thank you.
My name is Ajay Bansal. I lead the digital transformation services in IBM for the global markets. Much has been said about the education, the AI in education, especially Dr. Dalika said everything which has been said. What I see essentially happening, and I drive transformation strategy, transformation experience and technology across multiple industries. What I see happening is that essentially there is a process of democratization as well as globalization, which will be, I will not say driven by AI, but accelerated by AI. And what I mean by democratization is that there is a lot more inclusion. The power is shifting more to the student on what they learn, how they learn, and how optimally they learn. So typically when we see a healthcare, we see the focal point is shifting from hospital to the patient. And if you look at a consumer industry, the focus shifting from the seller to the buyer and the experience of the buyer. I think in a similar fashion in education industry, AI will drive the focus shift from the institute to the learner stuff or himself. What I also mean by democratization is that today when we look at a student-teacher relationship, we're predominantly thinking of formal system. But there are a vast number of people who need to be reskilled in corporates and AI itself is shifting jobs. There are people, consumers who are probably not even thinking about learning, housewives, adults, people with learning disabilities. AI has the power to reach those people and make the process more inclusive. We'll talk more about this, but if, just a couple of minutes on globalization. We talk about the manufacturing jobs shifting to India. I think there's a huge opportunity for India to export education, because it does drive a level playing field. And with all the innovation which is happening and the innovation driven learning, I think there's an opportunity to drive both education to global markets as well as to drive or export the edtech and the innovation to the global market. But more to come.
Hi, my name is Shekhar. I come from a Delhi-based MNC called Facts and Data. We are about 9 years old. We are in the business of advanced analytics, spiritual analytics, as one of the presenters earlier said. Our tagline is "We make future happen." So what does it mean? It means that we are working on very interesting technologies such as stimulus response modeling. So just to give you an example, if I say namaste, your typical response will be namaste. If I say good morning or good evening, your typical response will be good morning or good evening. So your response is a function of the stimulus that I get. Now, if you are able to do this stimulus response modeling on a vast amount of data set, you can perhaps predict how a person is likely to behave depending upon his culture, his background, his origin, his beliefs, his psychographics, his demographics, and other things, and the context, of course. These are some of the things that we are dealing with. Very interesting stuff. So far as education is concerned, it's always an outstanding thing, because it can make or break any culture. And our culture is absolutely no stranger to this. One of our former prime ministers once said that a country is not great if it has got a great past. A country is great if it has got a great future. And a great future is guaranteed by great education. Now, how do you educate a population of something like 1.3 billion? It's a huge number. So on one hand, you have stuff like automation that you can do, online courses, online classes, etc., which is automation. It is classic automation. It has its own role to play. But automation alone doesn't help. And the next step, therefore, is including artificial intelligence into making automation more intelligent, in other words. And that is what is achieved in the entire value chain of education system. So we start with identifying which particular student would do well in what particular stream, what is his or her basic traits. You need artificial intelligence to do that. Identify which particular student is, okay, this person is likely to study physics, he is likely to become a great physicist or whatever. But which particular cohort I put him into, because if I'm in the right in the wrong batch, I might not really come up to my potential. Now, game theory algorithms are at work. So you map the correct student to the correct cohort, to the correct instructor, and stuff like that. When it comes to content delivery, again, artificial intelligence has got a great role to play. Which particular modules should have more weightage when I'm studying versus someone else is studying? It will be a function of my historical study pattern, my historical learning pattern, and other things amongst others. What are my weak areas? What are my instructors' weak areas? How do we cover that? How do we bridge that? What is the day part that I am super active or super productive in terms of gathering? So net, it all boils down to what we call as hyper-localization, hyper-personalization. Hyper-personalize the content delivery and the content by itself in the context of the student, and then you have a win-win situation. So there is lots to come so far as artificial intelligence in education is concerned. I believe we have not even seen the tip of the iceberg. There are not many undermining things that are in process that many organizations are working on. And I believe that in the next 10 years or so, we'll see an explosion in terms of adaptability, in terms of engagement, in terms of the achievements that the students are able to do. So let's hope for a bit. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Indrajit Bhattacharya. I'm representing Quality Council of India, the National Accreditation Board for Education and Training. So we are a body which is into the space of education and training evaluation. We are into assessment, evaluation, and accreditation. and Quality Council of India the mandate is to create an ecosystem of quality. So my role in NABET is twofold. One is the rolling out of the accreditation of learning service provider (LSP) that has happened post the pandemic. Because pre-pandemic we were doing physical assessments in the institutions, in schools, colleges, and higher level institutions. Post pandemic we have launched this scheme of learning service provider, which is doing both which is basically doing assessments for blended learning approach. So this is part one, and in this blended learning approach, we are actually following the conformity assessment model. That is, whether we are adhering to a set of standards, and that standards is based on ISO 21001, which is EOMS, Education Organization Management System, and 29993, ISO 29993, which is on LSP, based on Learning Service Provider. That is part one. Now, that is following a conformity assessment model because we are still ongoing the pandemic. And now, you all know the education tools, my co-panelist already said that the Education 4.0 has the education tools strengthening the virtual learning space, which is moved on to all what Dr. Kamaki Mudali spoke about. That is, all those are encompassing. That is the smart tutoring, smart delivery, smart assessments, then your administration, smart administration, everything to do with education. So to basically, when I'm saying that we have to move on to the second order, which is the maturity model assessments. So with all these coming in, several tools coming into the education technology space, we have to move into the maturity model assessment. So I would urge all my co-panelists to help us in doing that, as well as anybody who is hearing in the EdTech space to help us in making a maturity model kind of assessments for blended learning mode. That is number one. And on the number two, we are also doing the Ministry of MSME's movement of implementation of Lean in the manufacturing space. So the industries are implementing Lean, that is the first quality intervention in the MSMEs to basically do operational efficiencies and get remove the inefficiencies in the manufacturing process. The level 2 that we have all talked about, we have already moved to the Industry 4.0 space. So whatever we have done from last 2014 to till date, before the pandemic, we have seen more than 25% productivity increase in those MSMEs where this Lean was implemented. Now, there is a BCG study which says that Lean post that Industry 4.0 can get a productivity enhancements up to 40%. So the Ministry of MSME has acknowledged that, and very soon, shortly, we will be introducing the Lean C scheme, which is the Lean Champion scheme in implementing the Industry 4.0 tools. AI is a part of that Industry 4.0. So we will take those MSMEs through the Lean journey and then handhold them to start off the Industry 4.0 journey. So, so that is part 2. And we all know that India has an edge over other countries to enjoy the demographic dividend of India, which is to drive quality upskilling the workforce, right? And that too very quickly. We do not have time. We are racing against time. And so AI is a very important tool in doing that. And there's a TCS study which even Dr. Kamaki Mudali said in some other study that the relative AI skill penetration rate from 2015 to 2020, India is even higher than United States. You'll be amazed to know this. So, so we are on the right track. So that is in the your private space, in the industry space. But in the government space, it has yet to take off. But the Ministry of Education has already taken some bold steps. It is evolving through a platform of AI ML in Diksha, which with the multi-language content, book parsing, content creation, Indian language translation, automated assessments from text to digital, Indian language voice detection and analysis, content and course auto recommendation, then video analysis and translation, data analytics for learning and content usage analysis. There is obviously much more beyond this, but let me hand it over to the moderator.
I believe that the panel has covered almost all aspects of the theme which was given to us. I believe that the artificial intelligence has come into this industry at right time. Whenever government of India is time and again, particularly if we look at higher education, has time and again was worried about that when the Indian universities have to come in the list of 100 best universities of the world. Already that race, we have joined that race, and some of the institutions have already come into that number, and many more institutions are planning and preparing themselves to enter into that list of 100 best institutions in the world. It is possible, it was difficult because there was no much control upon the system. There were many leakages in the system. Despite of efforts of the institutions by the government, that there were leakages, but that leakage can be better controlled by artificial intelligence. For example, we cannot say higher education does not mean only that education, the higher education of the country, but it also means the biggest sector of our part is the school education, which is largely I should not say neglected, was not properly managed in different states of the country and in the country as a whole. Because one of the things which we have the problem is that we have put it in the whenever we say the education is not controlled by the central government, different state government, the constitution has this provision. So the state have their responsibility to manage education. Center has its responsibility to manage education. As a result, many things are happening in many places. For example, the school dropout. I have seen many papers on school dropout where we found that the school dropout, one of the major cause of school dropout is the lack of proper control. And if we look at artificial intelligence and controlling the school dropout, the school right to education and implementation of the Right to Education Act, many states have already started, by which they are able to minimize the school dropout. Because one of the cause of the school dropout was the teachers were not coming to the schools, not taking the classes. Now, whenever many of us know that the Medical Council of India is now, I don't know whether it is implemented or not. There was a discussion that every day, every classes taken in every medical college should be reported to Medical Council of India. Just look at the efforts which are the plan which we have to control the classes, the attendance of students, attendance of teachers. As a teacher, I understand that whenever a teacher will come to the class, a student will come to the class, they will not sit there idle, they have to do the business. And it was, if we said, the teacher said that we are king of our own kingdom, many a time they misuse this freedom which is given to them. Whenever there is monitoring them, there is a pressure upon them. So under pressure, they have to produce. So it is possible whenever we have this system and it is operating, it is existing everywhere. Many of the private, I think VIT is also doing that. They have control upon the teachers in the class. Many institutions have CCTV in the classes. Many institutions, entire institution is under CCTV control. Whenever it happens, then which is practically not possible for a principal or a vice chancellor, that what is happening. For example, a affiliated university has hundreds of colleges, 400, 500 colleges. What is happening in those colleges? It was difficult for a vice chancellor to control. Today, whenever that we take the help of this artificial intelligence, it is easy for a vice chancellor sitting in his office. He or she can know that what is happening in different part of its jurisdiction, different colleges are under its jurisdiction or our jurisdiction. So it is, and if we look at what Professor Dr. Sekhar said, it is again which is we are doing in our open university.
that we have already, our examination system is almost computerized. Almost 70% of our examination is computerized. Now what Professor Shekhar was saying, that you earlier there was question was a common question, all the students were answering that question. Now the efforts are one that what is stimulus response issue which he was referring to. We are trying to, that artificial intelligence is able to develop individualized question paper, and students have to answer those question paper. Then you just look at the accuracy which will occur, which we can get in evaluating a student. Once we can appropriate evaluation of a student, appropriate diagnosis of a student, we can definitely be able to develop appropriate mechanism. We can provide him appropriate guidance to that student, how he has to develop or she has to develop. It was practically, it was, just like a doctor without proper knowledge, whatever may be the knowledge of a doctor, he was asking. For example, a pediatric surgeon, a pediatric doctor, he cannot, she cannot, just on the basis of his observation, he was assessing what can be the problem of a child. But today, if we look at the artificial intelligence and the efforts which Professor Shekhar says, that we can now know that what is happening in a child. What cognition process is going on in a child, and what capability the child has, and what efforts can be made to develop that child. So this was practically difficult for a teacher to have individualized attention to students of class 60, class of 60, class of 120, or participant of 500 by 500 participant in a session. But artificially, if you look at the system which has been developed, I think Vigyan Bhavan might have that system. I am speaking in English, different people can understand my speech in different language. Same thing is going to happen whenever a teacher is going to deliver class and the institution has developed this mechanism, that language barrier can be overcome. New education policy is also giving too much emphasis on artificial intelligence. I believe that if the new education policy is going to implement in toto as it is planned, it is desired, artificial intelligence, significance of artificial intelligence will be too much in education system, and definitely as all the panelist members are expecting that India is going to occupy a top position not only in artificial intelligence in terms of artificial intelligence in education, in the education as a whole in the world, will be definitely a global leader in education. For example, the research, the manipulation which was, if I say manipulation, it does not look good from my mouth whenever I say manipulation. But the things which were going in the research, PhD activities that have been controlled significantly, here comes the artificial intelligence. So we are able to see that before a student is allowed to submit a thesis, choose a topic for research, before making a presentation, how much copy he has made from different places, how much innovation he has made, how much new ideas has brought into the work is now examined, which was not possible when we were students in 80s. Now it is all possible because of this artificial intelligence. I think a time has come whenever we cannot live without artificial intelligence. We have to live with artificial intelligence. We have to, we teachers, we students, we society, parents have to prepare ourselves to cope with artificial intelligence, so that definitely we will be the leaders of the leader in education in future. I believe that if any of our panelists have to say anything, they can say, otherwise we can open the session to the audience. Sir, regarding you mentioned, right, education is responsibility of central government, state government. I completely agree. In addition to that, I think each one of us who are in corporate also has a responsibility, and especially when I came back 10 years back, definitely it will take time, and I was a little shocked to see that some of the syllabus was very, very old, like 20 years back old syllabus. Even today, my son just finished his 12th grade, and he was taught, normally computer has 4 MB memory. 1.44 floppy. And seriously, why are you talking about all those? Recently, I talked about last year. Huh? So I suppose the responsibility is at Accreditation in the world and whatever college at a time. Even if you can influence some syllabus change, right? I think that is what is required. And sir, as you mentioned, right, College Council of India, definitely will happy to participate there. And each one of us, because see, I deal with clients in US. A lot of times I'm actually innovating there, filing papers and doing something new. If that can be taught same year or next year in the college, I think nothing bad can happen. So I encourage all of us people who are in corporate to actually start teaching, even if it is 2 lectures, 4 lectures a year. I think that's a good start. I do 1 lecture a week.
That was actually effort which was made in 60s, but somehow it could not materialize. If this realization will come, let me tell you that this effort was is made in different institutions at different level in different places. Many times people do not come out. They are reluctant to interact with the student, because even now UGC has made it, even NEP is talking about involving the practitioners in education in framing the syllabus in our board of studies. Many places, especially IGNOU, we have made it compulsory for every majority of the business school to make the practitioners member of board of studies, and we have been successful to large extent. The day it will be possible everywhere in every institution, the things will definitely change. Thank you.
Just want to add, this is just to add one point, that this is the intense philosophy of AI in education. When they say AI in education, they are saying AI and education, which is threefold, 3 steps. AI education, AI for education, and AI in education. So what AI education means is they have introduced this AI syllabus. Where means Intel along with CBSE in class 9, 10, 10. Okay, they are putting what is AI and details about that. Now Estonia, way back 2 years back, they introduced this AI syllabus for the entire country, for the entire Estonian citizens, free AI education, and that was picked up from University of Helsinki. But I completely second with what Dr. Prasad said, that we are going to lead the world in the space of AI education as well as education itself because of AI. Why? Because number 2 is the EdTech tool. I've already brought in what is happening in the TCS research space, that we are ahead of the other countries, and our co-panelists here are all learned members here in the audience also, who have made tools which are way ahead. And I just want to pinpoint one tool, because we underwent this COVID and there was a lot of exams which were happening online. Now AI has evolved to so much that they can do a behavior analysis from the face and give a confidence level of whether the person has cheated or not. You can imagine the kind of AI movement which is happening. Okay, now how much is being absorbed is what has to be seen. That is why I said you have to help me with designing this step by step. And the third is the AI in education, which is the smart teacher, right? So the smart teacher is something which will be evolved, in which a lot of content will be brought in condensed form and delivered according to personalized ability to learn by the student. So that is going to be a game changer, and with these 3 tools, I think we'll arrive. I'm sure.
If I may add a few things. So I think a lot has been said about point solutions which are targeted at students via, discovering patterns of behavior. I think the crux at the end of the day to enable all these solutions and become that epitome of AI engine for the world for education is that interplay of data and algorithm which reside on a platform. Dr. Mudari did talk about a learning experience platform. There are constituents beyond student, teacher, content. There is a whole financial ecosystem. There are the regulators. There are transporters. There are canteen and uniform services providers. There are students which are not in the formalization. Eventually, for AI to make that biggest impact beyond the teaching of AI itself, is for a data platform similar to a digital India stack, a digital education India stack, which brings constituents into a single platform with the data interface, like which student has learned what are their current skills, what are their interests, and AI detect what are they good at and make recommend intelligent learning choices. Because a lot of education today, believe it or not, is happening much beyond the formal education. To give you an example, my son is in 11th grade, he knows 5 programming languages and is competing for international board using knowledge. It's very hard for him to find the content of a formal education system, even outside of the K-12 curriculum is not teaching any of that stuff. So AI has a big role to actually provide education which is relevant. If all these constants come into a platform with data, with services, and therefore we should allow the innovators to create the services and the products. That part.
That is true. Yes. So last, I would also like to add one point. There is a huge journey from textbook to software learning. And very often we found, as our colleague mentioned a little ago, our textbooks were printed in a given year and they have been circulated a lot. And still, the students do not find it interesting. Forget about passion, forget about other things. The kind of concentration they give when they are reading books or they are learning through traditional methods is not the same as they are playing computer game or mobile game. So, what attracts the student's concentration? Why we cannot produce good examples? Why our textbooks are quoting examples which are difficult and students have literally to mug it up? Why? Because they don't understand. So they just but game industry has taught us how we can get concentration of an individual at a higher level. And that is where AI could play a big role in converting our curriculum, making it more exciting and more relevant.
In fact, if we look at the efforts which IGNOU is making these days, as I said, IGNOU is the largest university of the world. IGNOU is famous for its quality in terms of producing study learning material, as you were saying. We are now trying our best that a student is now he has been used depending upon a invisible teacher. So how a student will be motivated to learn? We have made that effort that instead of depending upon other from the study material itself while going through the study material, he has to learn, he has to take the interest and initiative to go further. So our study learning SLM, what we call it, is so well designed. So what you are saying, I believe that this is a very important issue which should be addressed by the course designer and the program designer, so that the student, the intention, the interest in which they are spending their time in other activities when watching television or spending time in mobile, if they take similar interest, give similar focus upon the study, then perhaps the things will be totally different. That can be, we have to note it, we have to take into account that issue. Yes, I think if there is any question, yes.
This is a matter of interest to me. I am Sony Vidhi. I am from Bangkok, Sikkim. By profession, I am an educator. I run a chain of schools in Sikkim, CBSE schools. The assessment that we discussed about, which is going on, actually, it has been going on, assessment, online assessment. That's wonderfully going on. Mr. Awasthi has really taken a very good point about the assessment and about disseminating learning, teaching learning process, which needs to be forward. And Mr. Jain, what I agree with you is the whole ecosystem has to come together. Then only the changes, we can bring in changes in the school education system. Otherwise, even with the introduction of NEP 2020, I don't see very big changes in India very soon. I as a school owner, the one who is involved in school since past 18, 19 years, they all are school owners from different parts of the country. We know what what are the challenges, what are the bottlenecks, chicken necks, any necks, you see, we know the problem. Now, what percentage? See, it is not only the question, but we need to understand what percentage of Indian population, students population are we talking about when we talk about AI? Because most of our children are from the rural belt. They have not access to the internet. I live in Sikkim. I live in Gangtok. In Gangtok,